Well, Harry and Meghan's Netflix series, released to the world this morning, is packed with, well, not really revelations, are they? It's sort of rehashed old revelations with a new twist.
8 days after the relationship became public, I put out a statement calling out the racist undertones of articles and headlines that were written by the British press.
The release of Harry and Meghan's Netflix series didn't bring new revelations. It simply reopened old wounds with a shiny new tone. Yet while the world was busy revisiting the past, something far bigger was quietly unfolding inside the palace. 8 days after their relationship became public years ago, Harry had issued a statement calling out racist undertones in the press. But today, it wasn't Harry speaking. It wasn't Meghan defending herself. It wasn't the media chasing chaos. This time, the silence the palace had held for years finally cracked open from within. Months of whispers, tension, and buried frustration were about to erupt into one of the most decisive moments the monarchy had taken since the Sussex departure in 2020. Reports began circulating from inside royal walls, reports that Meghan's future with the monarchy had reached a devastating turning point. Far worse, far deeper, and far more final than anyone could have imagined. And the person at the center of it all was Prince William. In early November, pressure around King Charles was rising quietly but steadily. His schedule was softened, his public duties filtered, and every unnecessary burden removed. It wasn't obvious to the public, but inside the palace, senior aides worked with tense precision. The weight of holding the monarchy together shifted onto William's shoulders. He was juggling official duties, a tense royal environment, and growing concern about his father's health. At first, he believed this storm would pass like the others. That the noise would die down. That winter would cool tempers and restore order. But this wasn't the same storm. Something darker was moving beneath the surface. Across the Atlantic, American media began spinning new stories, claims that Meghan was preparing a grand comeback, a reinvention, a new phase in the public eye. Meanwhile, British commentators grew exhausted with the endless Sussex headlines overshadowing the Crown's work. Two narratives formed, separated by an ocean, but tied together by one common thread: silence from the palace. That silence created a vacuum, and Meghan's supporters, PR strategists, and anonymous insiders seemed more than ready to fill it. Inside Kensington Palace, William began receiving private briefings. Anonymous sources online had suddenly reappeared, feeding US talk shows, online magazines, and trending podcasts with fresh claims about Catherine, the royal family, and past Sussex grievances. Some were exaggerations. Some were outright fabrications. But all were perfectly timed to interfere with key royal events and public appearances. It wasn't coincidence anymore. It was a pattern. Then came the government. By late November, the Foreign Office quietly warned the palace that the escalating media drama was beginning to complicate diplomatic conversations. A senior minister privately urged the palace to regain control of their narrative before it affected international relations. The message was polite, but its meaning was unmistakable. The monarchy had lost control of its own story. Meanwhile, two women inside the institution watched everything unfold with growing alarm. Princess Anne, the embodiment of discipline and duty, saw the chaos as a direct attack on the values she'd spent her life protecting. Queen Camilla, already concerned about the king's fragile state, feared that renewed turmoil would be too much for him to bear. Though they rarely aligned on emotional matters, both agreed on one thing: William needed to act. By the final week of November, the tension inside the palace was unmistakable. Staff whispered in hallways. Advisors worked later than ever. Even Catherine, usually calm, steady, and composed, felt the pressure. William, watching the storm close in around his family, understood something brutal but true. Silence was no longer protecting them. It was destroying them. The first undeniable warning came one cold night inside Frogmore Library, a private room reserved for the most sensitive briefings. princess and sat surrounded by documents prepared by the palace's communications monitoring unit. The reports showed coordinated messaging across several US media platforms, talking points hinting that Meghan was preparing a major humanitarian comeback while subtly portraying the royal family as an obstacle. The language felt polished, strategic, intentional. It wasn't proof, but it was unmistakably familiar. The second warning arrived the next morning. William opened an encrypted packet containing screenshots and analysis from multiple American talk shows and podcasts. They were citing sources inside Buckingham Palace, sources that did not exist. The claims ranged from mild to deeply hurtful, including false rumors suggesting tension between Catherine and senior staff, and even implying William was frustrated with his wife. For a moment, William didn't speak. His face remained royal and composed, but the exhaustion around his eyes was unmistakable. Then came the winter briefing document, the moment everything changed. A mid-level aide received it quietly, knowing instantly it was unlike anything else. The document outlined a UN media strategy designed to reshape Meghan's public narrative. It framed her as a modern, misunderstood figure held back by an outdated royal system. The plan included strategically timed interviews, opinion pieces, and a special documentary. But what struck William wasn't the content, it was the timing. The media rollout was planned for Christmas week, the most sacred season for the monarchy. When Anne read the document, she moved quickly through the pages until she reached the final section. It hinted, in polished PR language, at opportunities to highlight failures in royal charitable programs. And saw instantly what was buried in the subtext. It wasn't a suggestion. It was a veiled accusation. And the target was Catherine. Anne felt something inside her harden. She had always defended Catherine, admired her work ethic, her quiet strength, her devotion to family. Seeing her attacked in the shadows of a glossy American PR strategy was intolerable. She met William that evening in one of Windsor's dim corridors, where the old winter radiators couldn't fully warm the stone walls. She laid out everything, the propaganda, the strategy, the risks. William listened in silence. When she finished, he asked only one question: who else knows? Her answer, Camilla, made him stop walking. If even Camilla, once a target of fierce media storms herself, believed this was dangerous, then the threat was real. Later that night, Camilla approached William privately. Her voice was gentle but firm. "It's starting again," she said. "Different faces. Same tactics. And your father cannot survive another season like this." That was the moment William understood that this crisis could break more than just the family. It could break the monarchy. A final message arrived from the Foreign Office. American media narratives were beginning to influence diplomatic discussions. The story was no longer personal. It was political. By the end of November, all the signs converged. William realized the truth with painful clarity. Silence was no longer an option. Action was the only path left. Inside the 1844 room at Buckingham Palace, a space soaked in history, the confrontation finally happened. William sat at the head of the table, documents spread before him. And to his left, Camilla to his right. The air felt cold, thick with tension. William opened the meeting by stating that everything discussed concerned the stability of the crown, not personal feelings. Not past wounds. The stakes were larger than any individual. And pushed forward her annotated copy of the winter briefing. "This is a coordinated attempt to rewrite the narrative," she said. "And it targets Catherine." Camilla added that the king's health could not withstand another global media crisis. The private secretary then revealed troubling findings. Multiple US networks had received identical talking points traced back to accounts linked to a PR firm previously associated with Meghan. One line chilled everyone in the room: if launched at full scale, the media campaign would dominate the holiday season and weaken public confidence in the monarchy. For a royal, those words carried more weight than anything else. And looked William straight in the eye. "You know what must happen." And Camilla, in a rare moment of emotional support, told him softly, "If you must draw a firm line, draw it. Charles will understand." Hours later, William made the decision alone in the quiet of the room. He rejected any statement that sounded emotional or dramatic. He wanted clarity, nothing more. At 6:47 a.m. on November 30th, the palace issued the announcement. It was brief, firm, and final, following a comprehensive review of ongoing challenges and recent public narratives. The Prince of Wales has determined that there will be no future coordination or engagement with the Duchess of Sussex. This decision, though difficult, reflects the need to protect the stability and responsibilities of the Crown. Within minutes, news outlets around the world exploded. BBC, Sky News, CNN, all cut into live programming. The public reaction was immediate. In the UK, particularly among older generations, many believed the monarchy had finally drawn a necessary boundary. In the US, reactions were divided. Some praised William's leadership. Others questioned whether reconciliation had been shut down too firmly. But even critics agreed on one thing: Catherine's quiet dignity had become a global symbol of resilience. Inside the palace, internal teams moved rapidly. Meetings were held. Protocols updated. Diplomats informed. The Foreign Office issued a standard reply for all inquiries: "The matter is closed." Princess Anne returned to public duties with a renewed sense of purpose. Camilla withdrew briefly, understanding better than anyone how public storms leave lasting scars. King Charles processed the announcement with visible sadness, but also acceptance. Duty, after all, had always demanded sacrifice. By nightfall, the monarchy felt different, quieter, steadier, more disciplined. The announcement didn't just end speculation. It redrew the boundaries of the royal family. As the winter light faded behind the rooftops of London, the palace stood in a rare moment of stillness, a monarchy shaken, but standing firm. And the question left hanging in the cold, quiet air was simple: how did a story filled with so much hope end here? With a final line drawn between two worlds that once tried to become one.